Hey there. Thank you so much for joining us today for another episode of Entrepreneurial Life with Deborah Perlman. We so appreciate you giving us your time, your energy, and your focus. Today's guest, I am really excited. It's been several years since we've seen each other. However, he is always top of mind, especially when we talk about anything BNI related, chapter, regional members, what the benefit is. And, I'm noticing that I've had a couple members of BNI and people who are very much affiliated with it come onto the show. And I do not, just so you know, I do not get paid to market. I do not get paid to advertise. I just truly believe in the giver's gain philosophy, and I know what it has done for my clients when they've joined BNI and how much it's benefited themselves, their businesses, and their families. And so I am really happy and really honored that this gentleman is spending time with us today. His name is Frank Raffele. I know him as the executive director, owner. He'll tell us, because I know I messed that up, of the BNI chapter that I belong to in the Hudson Valley. And I believe most of the Hudson Valley was under Frank's umbrella. So without further ado, Mr. Frank Raffele, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, thanks for being with you. Great to see you, Deborah. And it's great to be here with you. Thank you so much for having me on. It's quite an honor, so I appreciate that. So I'm Frank Raffele. I'm the executive director with BNI in the Mid-Hudson Valley area. We're actually, and this is our 30th anniversary year of BNI in this area. I can't believe it's been that
I
long.
didn't know that. Okay,
Yeah, no, so
congratulations.
that's pretty wild. And the only reason I know that, by the way, is if you ask me, because I'd say, yeah, it was like 10, 15 years, is my first daughter was born the same year we had the first chapter. That's the only reason that I know, and she turns 30 this year. So
Fantastic.
so we have that here in the Mid-Hudson Valley area. And when you're the executive director, basically means the franchise. I own the franchise for Dutchess, Orange, Ulster, and Sullivan counties. I was the BNI national director during COVID. And then beyond that, I've had a consulting and training company for over 30 years. So really helping businesses grow and become more profitable. So that's a lot of what I do. I do speaking all around the world and help different businesses out in terms of making themselves more efficient, more effective, and more profitable at what they do. So
That's awesome. That's some resume you just gave us. Okay, so where do we start? Where, all right. So let's back up because I actually do have a couple questions I wanted to ask you.
sure.
So forget just about the BNI piece, and we can talk about that benefit. I'd like to actually talk a little bit more about what you personally experienced. Why BNI? Why even start it? What got you even interested in providing the space for other business people?
It's a funny story. I'm originally from Westchester County, New York, and I was living down there, had my business down in Scarsdale, New York, and lived in Scarsdale. And then I had a lady that I was friends with, who came and told me about this BNI thing. Like this is, like 33 years ago or something. And um, and she told me how great and wonderful it was, whatever else. And she came to me every week, and I kept saying no, like, yeah, I'm not interested, not interested. And the reason I said no, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but I liked her as a person a lot, but I didn't necessarily respect her as a business person, right? But I thought she was a really nice person. And she kept saying how great it was, how wonderful it was. And in my mind, I didn't say this, but she said, you got to come, you got to meet these people. They're incredible. In my mind, I was thinking, if it's that good a group, how are you a member? That's what I was thinking because I didn't, was it
Oh
great?
my God, I hope she doesn't
So,
hear this.
right. So, so anyway, after about 6 months of her asking me, I was just like, okay, I'm gonna go check out what this is. And so I went, and it's funny because I went without even knowing anything about it. BNI wasn't even known back then. I went with a very negative attitude. I was driving over at 7 o'clock, at 6:30 in the morning to get to this meeting in White Plains. And I go to the White Plains Hotel is where it was. And I'm just there. I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I going to this meeting at 7 a.m.? And I go in, and then I went in, and it was the meeting was being run by a gentleman named Todd Hallinger, who's still he's an executive director today and it was a really, really well-run meeting. Very efficient, very focused, just an incredible agenda. I went from being like on a scale from, 0 to 10 or 0 to -10. I was at like -8 when I walked in. By the time I left, I was about, almost at a 10 about the organization. Like, wow, this is really impressive. And I put in an application that day and joined the next week and then was involved in that chapter for probably about a year and then wanted to start a chapter in where I was living and working in Scarsdale, which is only a few minutes away, but I wanted to have kind of a group. So they told me you could start a group and showed me how and became president of that chapter. We got that chapter up and running, grew it to like 35 or so people. And then they asked me to be an assistant director for BNI down in Westchester. And then I started helping open chapters, help coaching chapters, and then I became known as the turnaround director. So if we had a chapter that wasn't doing well, it was throw Frank in, Frank will go, and I would go and help them figure out what was wrong, help regrow the chapter, and do that. So during all of this, I'm working at my other businesses as well, and then decided I was going to move up to the Dutchess County area. And when I was doing that, I was like, "Is there BNI up there?" And they said no. And I said, "Well, I want to have a BNI region up there." So I had BNI had kind of the gotten in my blood, and I was just like, I think this is an incredible organization and what we do for people. And then I started BNI here 30 years ago, and since then that's been kind of my mainstay is BNI besides the consulting and training business that I do. And I just love what we do. I mean, it's a very, very rewarding business because what we do is we help people grow their business, become more profitable. There's no kind of trick to it. There's no anything. It's just a matter of you come here to grow your business and we help you grow your business through a very structured referral process. And so the number of success stories we've had over the years is just amazing. And it's just great for me when I see people who now can, put their kids through college, take vacations, buy new homes, and all because of, partially because of the money that they've made from BNI that's helped them grow their business. And not necessarily just because of me, but obviously all the members, as you said before, practicing givers gain, giving them, helping them, and making a difference. So we really focus in this region about not just making BNI successful, but helping business owners understand, because of my background, understand how to make their businesses more profitable. So we do a lot of business strategy, marketing, sales, all these different types of things to make people better business people. Because if they're just successful at their business, then they'll be able to help the people in the chapter that much more. And it just becomes a great cycle going back and forth. So I was a member, and then what's the old saying? I loved it so much I bought the company, right? So it's kind of one of those type of things.
You
So,
you did, and you're still very, very passionate about it. It comes across in just your energy level and how you talk about it, which is great to see. It's really funny. So you have, and there's been a lot of professional networking groups and referral groups that have tried
yeah.
to, replicate, and some do, and they're okay. And
Mhm.
I had the same experience. I'll give a little share. I joined BNI because I was a solopreneur and I was doing everything. I was doing my own marketing. I was doing my IT. I was doing the actual putting together of the documents, the proposals, following up, doing the emails. It's you're wearing all the hats as a
Yeah.
solopreneur. And I started to get burnt out. And I was doing really well. I'd have all these clients in my pipeline, and I didn't know how to leverage my time.
Mm.
And I didn't understand that I don't have to be the only person out there looking for my next clients. And so when I went to BNI, I really was on an island by myself. And I
Mhm.
think that for me was when I realized that you're in a room of other like-minded business professionals. And look, you're not going to love everybody. You're not going to go out and have a drink with everybody. They're not going to all be your best friends. However, on a professional level, you're connected and there's an opportunity for value and growth for everybody.
Yep.
So I just want to go back for a second. So I've been doing coaching and training and regional management for sales teams forever. What business were you actually in when you like first went to BNI? What were you actually doing?
Consulting and training company. So
Okay.
consulting business growth and then training. So we do sales training, customer service management, leadership, teamwork development, that type of thing. So that was kind of the focus of where I was at when I first got involved.
Okay. So from your own personal experience,
Mhm.
what was your growth and trajectory? And I mean, I know you're still doing that now, right? So, but what actual impact did you personally experience by being more involved with BNI?
It's a great question. I think it's multifold. One was as I got in the group, and I think, it's one of those things when people are like, I became a consultant in the consulting business and training business and speaking business by mistake. It was never my design. In fact, I didn't even know the industries existed before I got involved in them. It just kind of, out of college, I started my degree in college was television production, speech communications. I got out of college, make a long story short, I decided I was going to start my own business out of college. I had a couple of small ones when I was in college. So the entrepreneurial bug had bit me. I came out, decided I'm going to do this. I'm going to become Steven Spielberg, right? So that was kind of my view is I was going to start this, video production company way back then. No personal computers back then or anything. So I started a video production company. Again, make a very long story short, ended up producing 27 fitness videos on how to work out in your home gym. This is in the Jane Fonda era of
Wait a
VH.
second. I didn't know this about you. Okay, so I want you to share that link with us. They've got to be somewhere. I'm going to be doing a
I
Google
don't know.
search.
I don't know where, but somewhere on a VHS tape, we produced 27 videos. The very first one, I was the person doing the exercises in it, and I'm in blue spandex shorts and a
Oh
spandex
my God,
top.
Richard
Yeah.
Simmons all over again. This is great. Great. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
I don't
interrupt.
know. I
I
don't
had
know if
to.
that's the comparison I want, but okay,
Okay,
fair enough.
yeah. I'm
But
sorry.
so this is when Jane Fonda was, her tapes were really big, VHS tapes. So long story short, came up with this idea for, I was involved also very helped the fitness industry. So came up with an idea of working out on your own home gym. I ended up talking to a company called Marcy Fitness Products, which was the largest home gym company in the country at that time. And they were in today we have Dick's Sporting Goods. Back then we had Herman's Sporting
That's
Goods.
right. I remember
Right.
Herman's.
Herman Sporting Goods is the largest sporting goods country in the country. They had about 135 stores in the United States. Marcy was in all the Herman Sporting Goods stores. So long story short, we ended up licensing Marcy's name, produced 27 fitness videos, how to work out in your home gym. So it was kind of like your personal trainer on VHS tape. And then our tapes were being sold across the country in Herman Sporting Goods, Sharper Image Catalog,
Wow.
and American Express mailers.
Okay, wait, I just want to stop you for 1 second because we have a lot of people that don't know what a VHS tape is. So this is really dating both of us. Okay. So for those listeners who don't know what a VHS tape is, when you hit play on your iPhone, it's kind of like that, but a lot bigger. Okay, but go ahead. I'm sorry. I
To say the
digress.
least, yeah. So that company grew in 5 years. Marcy grew from a $7 million company to a $49 million company. Our videos being sold across the country. A German sporting goods came over to buy Marcy. They purchased them. They came to me and said, we want to purchase the rights to your videos. And I was just like, okay. And so we sold, and then I was kind of like semi-retired at like 28, which is pretty cool. And so I knew I had a reputation of in Scarsdale being known as a successful entrepreneur. I was then asked to teach a class on, if I'd be willing to volunteer my time to teach a class on entrepreneurship, like an adult education class. And I was like, sure. And they said, could you put together an 8-week course? So I was like, sure. I'd never done anything like that, but I was like, yeah, I could do that. So I put together some type of course just based on what I had done. And we had about, I don't know, 18, 19 people in the course. I taught this course for free. It was about a 10-week program or something like that. And 8 or 10 weeks. And then at the end of that, 5 of those people came up to me and said, so will you help us start a business? And I was like, sure. And I had never done that. I mean, I'd done it for myself, but I never like consulted with people. I didn't know I was becoming consulted, by the way. I just figured I was helping people. And so they paid me to help them get their business started. And I was doing that. I'd then get referred to people they knew who had businesses that maybe weren't doing well, were 3, 5, 20 years old, whatever it was. Then I went and helped those people. And I was really enjoying it. I was loving the fact of helping people, watching the light bulb go off when I talked to them about what they need to do in terms of customer service and marketing and sales and all this different stuff. And then so I was enjoying that. And then one guy I was working with says, hey, we need customer service training. Do you do customer service training? I was like, sure, I can do that. Never done that before. So I was just making this all up as I was going along. Now, back then, understand, there was no internet. So there was no Google to say customer service training and figure out, that type of thing. So it was based on my experience. I was always an avid reader. And then so now all of a sudden I was consulting, I was doing training, and then I started speaking, and that business just started to grow. And I started a reputation as a good speaker and going forward. And then I remember being home one afternoon or an evening, whatever it was, and PBS used to have these, fundraisers on. Anyway, I'm turning the channel and I watched this guy speaking, and I'm just watching, going, who's this? 45 minutes later, I'm still watching him, and I'm just going like, who is this? But while I was watching him speaking on stage, like a motivational speaker, it hit me. I said, this is what I'm supposed to do. Like, I'm supposed to do what he's doing. Like, it hit me like a lightning bolt. And I was like, what is this? Who is this? And his name was Les Brown.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
Les Brown.
Right. So a lot of people, maybe our age, will know what
Yeah.
who Les Brown is. He's, I think, one of the best motivational speaker ever. And so I started getting Les Brown tapes and books and everybody else, and I was doing it. And then one of his tapes that I listened to about 300 times, in there he says something about the NSA, National Speakers Association.
Yep.
I didn't know what that was, and I got involved in the National Speakers Association, and then I started speaking. And so what BNI's allowed me to do is I started getting local business, people who, now saw that I had half a brain, and they were saying, oh, you could probably help me out. So I started helping people with their business, and they were referring me to people. So I was getting local and regional business, and then people saw me start to speak, and I was being asked to speak in different places. And then next thing I know, BNI helped me grow from being local to regional to national to international. So I've now, with my consulting and training business, I've been all around the world. I've been able to go to India, all throughout Asia, Japan, Singapore, Hong Kong, and throughout Europe. So it's been an incredible ride, and I would never have grown to be an international business if it wasn't for BNI. So,
Well, that's a really nice testament
yeah,
to BNI, and it's to you too, because not everybody has that ability.
I
So
appreciate
people can want it, and people can want it. They can dream about it. They can maybe even plan for it, but actually executing it and achieving it, good for you. Good for you.
appreciate that. So,
So all the road is not always paved with ease, right? So there are some stumbling blocks, maybe a couple speed bumps in the road. So what for you was one of the biggest challenges you had to deal with and overcome?
I think it was when I got out of college, my dad knew a person whose family member worked at ABC television studios. So I got interviewed out of college for an entry-level position at ABC. And I went and spoke to a lady there, and that's a whole nother funny story, but I'll kind of make it short. Of In that interview, basically she said to me, she said, Frank, look, she said, obviously you know somebody here, because I was told unless you were a moron to hire you, because this is an entry-level job. And it was, in my opinion, a pretty moronic job. The entry-level job was in the sports department. I would go in and be there at 11 o'clock at night, work till I think 7 o'clock in the morning, and I record time codes. So what that meant was I would be watching television, ABC television. There'd be time code on the bottom, and every time it went to commercial, I had to write down the exact time it went to commercial. That was the job.
That was
Now, understand, while I was in college, I was working with a guy who's a television producer, and there was shows on ESPN and stuff that my name was in the credits. I was helping to direct and produce, and so I knew the television industry because I was involved in it while I was kind of learning about it in school. And so when I got out, I was like, okay. And I talked to the lady about what this position was, where it could bring me in, and I saw that it wouldn't bring me where I wanted to go. Okay, probably wasn't my best decision not to take the job, because I would have been involved in the industry, but I said no. My dad freaked out, and that's when I started to start my own business. Well, I did that, but I had no money to start a business. I just kind of started it. And so basically I started a business with like $5 in my back pocket. So
This
that
is the
means
exercise business,
this is the video production business.
video production. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And my first video production company is called Innovative Video Productions. Then we went to Video Fitness, which was the one I told you about. Innovative Video Productions was my idea, was producing video brochures for resorts and spas across the country. And my very first client was Weight Watchers Resorts and Spas. And that's what kind of led to the fitness video, because I made a proposal to Weight Watchers, and then so anyway, that's kind of where it went. So, but anyway, so I'm doing that. But while I'm doing that, like, I'm not making any money at my business. I'm trying to get my business going, and it's hard. So I'm losing money at my business but I'm working at a health club, being a fitness trainer a few nights a week. I was driving a limo for a guy in New York City who owned a meat packing company, whole nother story. And I was also bouncing at a bar 3-4 nights a week. So I was working 7 days a week. I was working between 110 and 120 hours a week.
You were hustling.
Yeah, to get my business going, while I was losing money at it. So I was supporting myself doing that. So that was a very challenging time. Now, understand though, when I was doing all this, I felt like I was always on vacation, because I was so excited about starting my own business. It didn't matter what I had to do to focus on everything else I was doing. If I was working at the bar, if I was driving the limo, if I was doing security for this guy, or if I was working at the health club, all that was to support my dream. So to me, it was all good. There was nothing negative about it. It's like I was just enjoying the things that I was doing, and that kind of drove me going forward. So that was the biggest challenge. And I got phone calls from my parents, from my sister. What are you doing? You got to stop. You're working too much. You're going to kill yourself. And I was like, no, this is what I'm going to do. And so what happened is, as I started to make money at one business, then I let one job go and started to make some more business. Then I let another job go. So all of a sudden, like when I could focus on nothing but the business, do nothing else, that was like graduation to me. I was like, I'm an
Good for
entrepreneur
you.
now. I can support myself, And so that
Yeah.
was pretty cool. So that was probably the most challenging time. And then obviously, then when I came up to Dutchess County area, nobody had known what BNI was. Everybody's just like nobody. And now I came to the area that I knew nobody. Right. I was just married at the time. We were moving up, bought a house in Beacon. We were having a baby, and we knew nobody. My wife was from Wyoming. And so we're up here. My parents were living in Florida, so we had no family around. I knew nobody in the area, and I was starting a business from scratch in a brand new area. So it was just like start all over again. And so I had to kind of do the same type of thing. Is I had to get BNI going, and the way I started was I just started cold calling people and inviting them to a meeting, and then it kind of grew from there. So there you
And
go.
it grew, it grew. So there's so much in there, and I wish we had like 7 hours to have this conversation. So a lot of what you did, people are probably listening to this and they're going, wow, okay, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I would do that. And I think that also is very telling of the persistence and the perseverance that is really it's required. If you're going to start your own business in any industry, it
Yeah,
doesn't matter. I think you have to be persistently and persevere and be consistent with what you're doing.
yeah,
And you because it's so easy to give up, and there's that book, 3 Feet from Gold. You don't want
right.
to give up when you're almost there,
Yep.
you
Yep.
know.
Well, it's funny. Over the years, I've had many people who have come to me and their friend, their neighbor, their cousin, whoever else is saying they want to start. Would you be willing to talk to them? I said, yeah, always. I'll always, if somebody wants to, for whatever, even somebody that wants to help in their business, I'll always have a conversation with somebody and not charge them anything. But people who want to start their own businesses, I'll have a conversation. And here's what I do in that conversation. Okay. And it'll be an hour or 2 hour long conversation. I don't care how long it takes. My job in that conversation is to convince them not to start their own business.
Yep.
And I do everything I can to tell them why this is a bad idea. And by the way, I can be pretty convincing about that, right? So what'll happen is at the end of that phone call, they'll kind of be like, "Oh, well, fine," and they'll say like, "Forget it." Or they're going to turn to me and say, "Look, you son of a, I'm still going to do it. I don't care what you think." Because here's what I believe. If in 1 or 2 hours I can convince you not to start the business, you
Then
were
you
never
should.
you were
Yeah.
never meant to do it.
Yep.
You should be saying at the end is, I don't care what you think, I'm going to do it. Screw you, like that type of thing. And the reality is when I at the end, I'm going, oh, we got somebody here. Like if I can't convince you in an hour or two, then I know that you have what it takes.
Yeah.
And then I'll say, great, now I'm happy to help you. Let's kind of get this going. Right. And I think that's really what you're saying is really important. If you're going to go start your business, you have to understand there is no, well, I'm going to quit my corporate job. They don't just, I'm going to do this and that way I can work like 30 hours a week from home and I can do this. Not going to happen. You're going to work double to triple the hours you did before for half the pay, if that from before. And if and when it's 3, 5 years later, it's going to take off for you. And for most entrepreneurs, for most people who get their own business, they basically replace the salary they had before. Most of them don't do it, and all of a sudden they're making millions of dollars and have 50 people working for them, have 20 locations. Very, very rare. It's you. And by the way, I'm not saying anything's wrong with that. If you go and work for yourself and just replace hey, you're working for myself now. I'm happy as I can be. I work from home or I go here, whatever else you're doing. It's as long as you know what you want. And I think that's really important is that you have to keep revisiting that, if it's twice a year or something of, am I going the direction I want? What do I want? What is my vision? And have that clarity of vision so you know where you're going. And it's going to change over and over again. Because as you start a new business and get it to start to grow, what's going to happen is some new opportunities. Oh, wow, I didn't even think about this. And you're going to go down this route. And it may be down where you're, but it's going to be new things you didn't think about. And then all of a sudden, a year or two down the road, you're going to be like, I'm doing something different than I originally thought. And I love it. And that's great. That means that's a serendipitous way to grow your business, very organic. And I look at that if you're enjoying that, it means it's meant to be.
Yep.
And that's kind of how I got into consulting and training and speaking. It was not planned. It was serendipitous. And I looked at it like, well, this is what was meant to be in what I'm doing. And so, yeah, I think that's the key. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, it's not easy. But from my perspective, it's well worth it,
Yeah,
but
I would
you
agree
have to
with
have the
that.
right personality for it, right? You have to have the right personality for it.
You do, and you have to be consistent. You have to also learn to be a little bit like neutral, like Switzerland. Like you can't up and down with the emotions. I think that it
Mhm.
actually harms. It can harm you and it can harm your family life, and then it ruins relationships. So you have to keep a very neutral demeanor, and yeah, and understand that whatever industry you're in, there's going to be those peaks and valleys, and just you just have to stay like that. So it's interesting. One of the biggest challenges that my clients, some of my, I shouldn't say all of them, a couple a couple of my clients have is they get distracted very easily by the shiny penny and they
Yeah.
will go off track. So you mentioned that if it's for the right thing, the right reason, and it's got an intention to it, that's great. So how do entrepreneurs or what question, let's do this. What would be the right or the best question for an entrepreneur to ask themselves before they start another new thing or go down another road? What's the question?
Yeah, that's a really good thing to have. And it's what you call your core question of your business. So, what is the service that I want to provide or the product I want to provide? What do I really, what do I enjoy doing? Or what is my skill set? Or what do you want to do? So, because some people go into a business that it's not their skill set yet, but it's something they want to do, right? So you have to acquire that in terms of going forward. But what is the core service product that you want to offer to somebody in order to develop this business. And I think when you stick with that and know what that is, and what's going to happen, I think, is, I mean, there's going to be those rare times that you're starting one business, you end up in something totally different. I think that's the rare person, but I think you're going to stay with it. But what will happen as you go down the road, you may say, this is what I'm going to look like in a year or two down the road. And as you go forward, you may be going the same direction, just slightly in a parallel path because maybe there was a different type of opportunity you didn't think of. So let's just say, and I'm just going to make something up. Let's just say I decided I decided I'm become a consultant and I was going to consult in the financial industry because sometimes I have a background in the financial industry. So I'm going and I'm pursuing that. And now as I'm, trying to focus on the financial industry, somebody happens to ask me, well, Frank, I have some people that are in this manufacturing. They're looking to help. Can you give them some advice? I said, well, I'll be happy to talk with them. And I talk with them. And as I start to talk, and they kind of all of a sudden they hire me and I'm working on it, and all of a sudden I'm realizing, wow, this is something that's really of interest. I like this. And I realize that I'm kind of good at that and going forward. But the difference is because I probably have a financial background, I can help this business, but I'm doing it from a financial perspective. I can look at their business and what they're doing. It's kind of like when you look at CEOs of companies, right? When you look at a CEO, you'll know what the culture of that company is going to be and where it's going to go based on the path that CEO took. Did they come from the sales path, the marketing path, the operations path?
Yep.
Did they come, from the financial path?
The
And they'll
service,
go
the actual service, right? Delivery.
correct. Yeah.
Yep.
I knew a company in the area that was doing very well and then stopped doing very well. And I was asked to come in and kind of talk with the owner and the CEO he had hired. And the CEO is a very bright guy, was very committed to the group, but I knew after one meeting with him, he'll never turn this company around because he came from the financial background. He was very much of a financial geek. Like he knew like an accounting type of background. He didn't understand marketing and sales. And this company needed marketing and sales. So he knew the finances and where they were, but he didn't understand how to go there. And I was like, unless you have a leader that's going to do that, it's not going to bring you that way, right? So it's that type of thing that I think is really important. That when you're starting that business, when you're going down that path, know what your core question is in terms of the service, the product you're going to offer, and what you want to become. Now, again, it can adjust. But again, like you said, you don't want bright, shiny objects to distract you. It's just a matter of are you still going down the path of where you want to go? And I'll give you one example of that, Deborah, and I'll just from a BNI perspective. One of the things I've really respected about Dr. Ivan Misner, who founded the organization, and BNI is it's very myopic in what they do. We are a referral organization, period. That's what we do. We're not a networking organization. We're a referral organization that uses networking as our tool. right? So anytime, as you can imagine, as the organization has grown, when I first got involved in BNI, it was only in the United States and in 30, 35 states, now in over 75 countries, right? So I've seen this growth happen. I've been part of it. And I think there's always, as you can imagine, all these new opportunities coming in to Dr. Meisner. You could do this, you could offer this to members, you could offer that. And he was always like, the question was, will this help our members become better members? Will this help our members grow their business through referrals?
The
Will
core
this help
question.
our members become better networkers? If it doesn't fall into one of those questions, then the next question is, why are we having this conversation? Is there a reason? If not, we're not sticking to who we are and branching out on things that we don't do.
I
This
love
is what
that.
we do. Let's be a specialist. And I think that's a real key. And one of the things that's made it that focused, and now you have BNI as pretty much the 900-pound gorilla in the referral marketing space. Nobody's even close to BNI in terms of its size and its success. So I think that's what makes any organization, not just BNI, any organization you see that becomes that successful, even if it's just a regional organization, it's because they've stayed myopic in who they are. They know who they are and they stay there.
That's really interesting. That's a great point. It's interesting. So let's flip this for a second. So let's talk about the CEO or the visionary who doesn't let go. Sometimes you have to pivot and shift, and sometimes you have to let go of your ego a little bit and step back and say, this isn't working. Yeah, right. So do you have any stories about a client that might have happened to, or an
You
example?
know, I ran a CEO group for about 10 years, and it was CEOs that had from 5 million to $400 million companies, and we'd have a monthly meeting with the CEOs together where they'd have kind of help each other with problems, and I would sit with each of them and coach them every month. And what you said is a very, very important point. That what happens is sometimes, and just for me, I say to people, you in life in general, but especially when you're head of a company, is never take yourself too serious. Okay. When you start to think you're all that, then you're furthest away from being all that than you've ever been before, right? You've got to understand that the more humble you become, the better you are at growth and going forward, right? So it's really important to stay that way, because otherwise you're going to have a problem. So all of a sudden, if you're in your own little bubble and you think you know everything, you're not going to get that. So that humility is very important. So as someone grows, if they're struggling, a lot of times it's because, like you said before, they're in their own world and they're listening only to themselves. And it's a very lonely spot to be in as a CEO of the company, especially as the company grows, that you're doing that. Like, you even talked before, like when you first started your company, I had to do all these different things. You were in all the boxes of your company and doing that.
Yeah.
And there's no way we can all know those type of things, right? Like for me as an example, from a financial perspective, okay, I'm not a great detail guy. Okay. I don't like detail. Now, when I do detail, I'm very, very good at it, but I don't want to do it. Right. But that's my thing.
Mhm.
Like years ago, when I used to balance your checkbook, by hand, like I go, okay, I balance my checkbook and I'd be walking around my desk for like 10 minutes. Come on, Frank, you can do it. Balance checkbook. We're gonna balance checkbook. I would sit down. I'm like, okay, no, not yet. Okay, but I'm gonna. And then when finally I got myself to sit down, then it would have to come out perfect. And I would not do anything until it was absolutely perfect. But it's not my real skill set. It's not my interest. So as I had companies that started to grow, I was like, I need somebody to do that. I need like an accountant that's an entrepreneurial accountant that can do that type of look for me and give me those reports and tell me what I need. And your job is about to look at those things and seeing, how do I do that? The best leader is that person that surrounds themselves with people who are brighter than they are in other subject matter. And that's
100%.
really, really important, is to make sure you're doing that. So you're getting that type of input all the time. Even you want advice from everybody, like in your team, you want those people, that team around you, if it's an attorney, an accountant, or whatever people on your team, you want that. And even if they say, well, I think we should go this way, and you think that's not the right way, then what you want to do is hear them out as much as you can, because even if you don't believe it, there's probably going to be some great value there somewhere. We're just like, okay. Or you say, well, what? Tell me why. Why do you think that is? Like, create the argument with me here. Tell me. Because they may, all of a sudden, you may go like, no, no, no. Oh, wait a minute. I didn't think about it that way. Like, that's not agree. I might not still agree with you what you're saying, but you've given me a whole different way to look at something. That is so important if you want to stay relevant in your business, and keep your business going forward, is always getting those different perspectives in going forward and versus just staying in your mind. Even if you read a lot, watch videos, do whatever else, that's one thing. But to have somebody to challenge you, to have a different perspective, that's really valuable. So I think surrounding yourself, even if you don't employ people, maybe it's just people that you really respect, and you go to people and say, look, I'd love for you to be part of my advisory team, and have people help you. Or when you hire somebody like yourself, someone who's a coach to kind of come in, who's going to challenge you and go like, yeah, no, I don't
Yeah.
think so. Right.
Well, yeah, you don't want to surround yourself with yes mans. You don't. That's actually doing your company and your life a disservice, right?
Absolutely.
It's so interesting. So the humble and the ego has to be in check and
Hmm.
be grounded and present, and don't be afraid to surround yourself with people who have expertise in areas that you don't, because you can't be the expert everywhere. And one of the exercises I do with my clients is I have them, how many people are in your organization? Well, it's me, and maybe I have one or two other people. I'm talking about my solopreneurs. Great. I want to see an organizational chart. And they're like, well, it's
Yep.
just me. I'm like, no, put yourself in the hat, put yourself in the organization. Let's work on leveraging and growing, because your business can only grow as much as you do. And
Mm.
you have to allow yourself to delegate. You have to allow yourself to have SOPs. You talk about processes and systems when you do, right?
Yep.
It's the light bulbs go off. And I think that's for solopreneurs who are about to launch into those bigger businesses. It's a great foundation, and it's a great way to start right from the beginning.
No, you're absolutely right there, man. And if you can get somebody when they're solopreneur, if they're planning on growing a bigger organization, to start thinking about that, then it's a it's the perfect time, because as they grow, you're giving them a knowledge they didn't have before. Because, and I'm sure you've seen people like this as well. People who end up having an organization that's, 5, 8, 10, or whatever people, but they've never learned what you just said to them. So they're still working with blinders on. And then you come in and you're saying, okay, well, are you doing this? No, this, no. You're doing this? No. You're doing this? No. It's like, dude, how do you even grow this business? Right. But it gets to a point where they're out, they're out on the edge of that branch that it's getting weak. It's going to break, because they grew almost in spite of themselves. They have a good product, a good service, whatever else it is. And they're just kind of trying to pull in all these reins, but they really don't know how to do it well, because they've never had other specialists come in. And like you said at the beginning of this conversation, you said, which is very powerful, that people have to learn how to let go. People have to learn how to bring people in and not be that person the whole time. And that's really important, is to know what your weaknesses are, where you need to improve, and go from there. So very powerful.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're about to wrap up. Is there one nugget, one something takeaway that you would love to share with the listeners? A lesson, a quote, anything?
I think in terms of, if it's entrepreneurs that are listening, um, the only thing I can tell you is, I think personal growth is the single most important thing that you can do for your business. And I've been an avid reader. I have my in my office, I had over 600 books there that I had read on everything from marketing and sales to leadership to personal development, to everything you can imagine, and pulling those different things in. So always trying to absorb more, always being open-minded. I think that's kind of the single most important thing that we can do. I think today we have the beauty of today is we have, YouTube is like, the university of the world. You can put anything in the world in there and learn from some people who are really amazing speakers, and people who are great coaches and consultants and doing things like that. People who have podcasts like you do. I mean, these are so many different ways that we can learn from people. So just keep investing in yourself. And as you invest in yourself, it's gonna come out, 5, 10, 100-fold as you go down the road. So,
Thank you so much.
my
If
pleasure.
anybody wants to reach out to you, how do they get in touch with you?
They could, I mean, my email is Frank. The general one I use is frank@bnihv.com. So bnihv.com. I have a website, just my name, frankdraffele.com. You can go there, and you can probably find me on Facebook or LinkedIn as well. So just for me.
That's awesome. I really appreciate you being here with us today. Thank you so much for being such a
My
great
pleasure.
guest.
I appreciate you having me. I really do. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today for another episode of Entrepreneurial Oomph. Today's guest was Frank Raffele. We're so appreciative for all the gold nuggets that he dropped on us today. I hope that you all enjoyed it. Please listen on YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe. We only drop an episode once a week. It's on Tuesdays. You want to get notified so that you have time to listen to it before the next one drops. And my name's Deborah Perlman, and thank you so much for joining us today. Gotta love, gotta love, gotta